Welcome to Category 2 Implementation Grant Technical Assistance Recording. Adult Redeploy Illinois implementation grants can be used by jurisdictions to fund the implementation of local plans to divert nonviolent offenders from prison to community-based supervision and services. In exchange for grant funds, jurisdictions must agree to reduce by 25% the number of ARI-eligible prison admissions from defined target populations. In other words, the state will redeploy correction dollars to local jurisdictions to achieve better outcomes at a lower cost to taxpayers. For Category 2, the grant range for the implementation of the planning grant, we do not have a specified amount. Keep in mind that funding is available for the period of January 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2018. The background: Adult Redeploy in Illinois was created by the Crime Reduction Act as part of a package of criminal justice reform measures passed in 2009. The Crime Reduction Act established a framework of modernizing the Illinois criminal justice system by requiring the use of validated assessment, evidence-based practices, and performance measures and evaluation. The underlying principles of the Crime Reduction Act were: the current criminal justice system is not as effective as it might be, and the current prison population growth is fiscally unsustainable. Also, being smart on crime involves understanding why people commit crimes and addressing the needs underlying criminal behavior. It is less expensive and more effective to treat nonviolent offenders in their communities, reserving prison space for violent criminals. The goals of ARI are to reduce crime and recidivism in a way that is cost efficient for taxpayers, provide financial incentives to counties or judicial circuits to create effective local level evidence-based services, to encourage the successful local supervision of eligible offenders and their reintegration into the locality. Finally, to perform rigorous data collection and analysis to assess the outcomes of the programs. The target population. Per the Crime Reduction Act, ARI funds can only be used to serve prison-bound individuals whose diversion to community-based programs represent actual and immediate costs avoided by the state, with the goal to ensure that intensive interventions provided with ARI funds were targeted to those higher-risk clients who can benefit the most from them and from whom the cost is most effective. The Adult Redeploy Illinois Oversight Board established that at least 80% of those served at each ARI site must score moderate to high risk to the Level of Service Inventory Revised Instrument, otherwise known as the LSIR. The cost effectiveness, where ARI-funded interventions must represent substantial savings from the cost of incarceration in state prisons. Cost effectiveness. ARI-funded interventions must represent substantial savings from the cost of incarceration in state prisons. Program requirements. Only jurisdictions with a completed local plan may apply for implementation of funds. Preference will be given to those jurisdictions whose local plans have received prior Adult Redeploy Illinois Oversight Board approval. To reflect broad commitment, letters of support from all key and principal stakeholders in the justice system are strongly encouraged. The other requirements are a multidisciplinary steering committee. Each applicant should identify a multidisciplinary steering committee representing the criminal justice spectrum. Those include the judiciary, prosecution, defense, and probation. They must also include the community, for example, treatment providers, social services, and local businesses. All of these are to guide implementation. For this section, you should not include proper names, only titles of all partners. The assessment of risk and assets and needs. ARI must utilize validated assessment instruments to guide supervision and programming decisions. Evidence-based practices. Per the Crime Reduction Act, ARI must be used to invest in local program services and protocols that have been a promising practice by research to reduce recidivism. Examples of the evidence-based and promising practices are located in Appendix B. The appendices are found in the actual NOFO. The performance measurement. Every ARI site must collect and report program measurement data quarterly as a condition of funding. The Crime Reduction Act specifically requires the following to be measured: recidivism, rate of revocations, employment rates, education achievement, successful completion of substance abuse treatment programs, and payment of victim restitution. ARI and ICJIA have defined additional performance measures to track these and other indicators of impact. The list of mandatory data elements to be collected are included in Appendix C. Reduction goal and reimbursement provision. In exchange for the funds, jurisdictions must agree to reduce by 25% the number of offenders committed to the Department of Corrections from a defined target population or else face a penalty. The reduction goal is based on the jurisdiction's average number of commitments over the past 3 years according to the Department of Corrections data. Once granted funds, sites are required to collect data and regularly report on progress. Jurisdictions having difficulty meeting their reduction goals are provided technical assistance. They can also propose a corrective action plan to meet an adjusted target, or as a penalty, prepare to reimburse a program a portion of the grant at the discretion of the Adult Redeploy Illinois Oversight Board. The reimbursement is capped at $2,500 for each person short of the goal. Problem-solving court certification. This may not apply to everyone. If the proposed program model for the ARI implementation is a problem-solving court, otherwise known as a PSC, the jurisdiction must either be a certified or in the process of being certified through the Administrative Office of Illinois Courts. ARI funds can be used to support initial staffing, training, and administrative support throughout the certification process. However, no funds can be used to provide services until such a time as the PSC is certified and able to enroll participants. The award period. Grants awarded resulting from this opportunity will have a target period of performance of January 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2018. The program narrative. In this program narrative, there are broken up into different sections: the program summary, statement of the problem, key partners, description of the proposed model, goals, objectives, and performance indicators, and project management. In the program summary, you should be able to describe a description of the target population, including the proposed number of diversions towards the 25% reduction goal. Description of the key partners and stakeholders. You should also provide a description of the existing capacity in the local justice system and local treatment community services. Provide a description of gaps in sanctions and services, and provide a description of the proposed ARI program model and how it proposes to address those gaps. In the statement of the problem, you should include data to demonstrate the magnitude, frequency, and type of problem you want to address. Statement of the problem also involves the current situation. Visit the ARI website at the Tools tab and click County Level Data to access the 2014 and 2015 data needed for the table. Data for the 2016 year is available in a separate spreadsheet included with the application materials. These will include specialty probation units, also task probation, mental health courts, drug courts, any other program or pilots funded through grants or special project funds. Statement of the need, unmet needs. You should be able to describe unmet programmatic needs in sanctions and services. The gaps may include personnel, technology, human service programs or partners, or other issues related specifically to the jurisdiction. The key partners. Identify how your jurisdiction will engage in a deliberate and inclusive planning process with key stakeholders. you should examine relevant criminal justice data on the characteristics of the offender population. In the description of the proposed ARI program model, you should describe the target population and define the criteria that will be used to accept individuals in the program. You should also be able to describe the intake and assessment process to be used for the ARI program and describe what will be done to rehabilitate the individual in the community that is different from current practices. Other items that should be included with the program model is a statement of impact to the court system, including probation department and the community treatment system, resulting from the increase in individuals sentenced to community supervision and treatment alternatives. You should be able to describe a plan to incorporate community involvement in the ARI program. Also provide a plan on how the program utilizes or will utilize the Affordable Care Act to increase access to a broad range of treatment in the most cost-effective way. You should finally be able to complete the implementation schedule by defining each step in the implementation and operation of the proposed program and detailing the staff position responsible for each task and target date for that completion. The goals, objectives, and performance indicators. In this section, you should only be able to complete the charts for the programs proposed for funding by filling in the information marked with a blank. In other words, you should include a number wherever you see a blank, making sure that the number is measurable and within the scope and goal of your program. Additional objectives may be added as deemed appropriate for your program. Project management. Describe the coordination and supervision infrastructure that will ensure the proposed ARI program will be able to meet stringent requirements around implementation of evidence-based practices with fidelity, data collection, and reporting. Please note that all applicants are required to include a dedicated ARI program coordinator at 25% full-time equivalent or greater, and explain how that coordinator will be involved in the program. The budget. The budget is made up of two sections, the budget detail and the budget narrative. Both of these items should be submitted through an Excel file. The Excel budget can be found on the web for the NOFO and or a hyperlink within the NOFO. The budget detail is in an Excel file with several tabs. Please make sure that the budget is complete. You should click on each tab and see if it is relevant to your program. Include costs, making sure that they're allowable, that they're not supplanting, and are reasonable. Budgeted items should be cost-effective in relation to the proposed activity. You should provide a statement that the funds from ARI will not be used to supplant existing federal, state, and county or local funded programs. This does not include program expansions or enhancements to existing models. For more information on supplanting, please visit the financial guide, the pre-award requirement, Chapter 5, page 6. A link can be found in NOFO. Budget narrative. The narrative is complete for all items, clearly detailing how you arrived at and calculated the budgeted amounts. You can type the narrative under a spreadsheet where you are including your budgeted items. The narrative describes why each line item is necessary for the program implementation, and you should also be able to describe that you are not supplanting. The notice of intent. Submission of a notice of intent is non-binding and will be used for internal planning purposes only. Agencies must have completed the GATA pre-qualification process and received an ICQ approval from a state cognizant agency by the date of application. Upon receipt of a notice of intent, ICJIA will offer technical assistance to agencies which have not yet demonstrated GATA compliance. Agencies interested in submitting an application are strongly encouraged to complete an online notice of intent form by 11:59 p.m. October 16, 2017. Remember, please add your answers, your narrative, under each numbered question. Complete and sign the Uniform State Grant application as a PDF, and also include the ICQ approval as it is mandatory. You can look for this through the GATA website. All applications will be screened for completeness. The due date. The application is due no later than Monday, October 30th, 2017, 11:59 p.m. Take time to submit your application early. Questions regarding the content of this technical assistance recording, otherwise known as a webinar, the solicitation, and application submissions, please send an email to the email address listed. This concludes Category 2 Implementation Grant Technical Assistance Recording.